I'd like to call this year's subcommittee on Chesapeake to order. My name is Rob Blocks, and we can go around the room very quickly and introduce everyone, if you would, please. And I'll just start over here with Tony.
Delegate Tony Will, 26th House District for now. City of Harrisonburg, portion of Rockingham County.
Delegate Buddy Fowler, 55th House District, primarily Hanover and parts of Caroline and Spotsylvania.
Chris Runyon, 25th District, Western Albemarle, Southern Rockingham, and Northern Augusta.
Delegate Leeway, the 65th District, all of Powhatan and parts of Chesterfield, Fluvanna, and Goochon, and I'm pitch hitting until Delegate Ranson is able to make it.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm David Bolova. I represent the 37th House District. That's the city of Fairfax and parts of central Fairfax County.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Alfonso Lopez. I represent South Arlington and Eastern Fairfax, the 49th District.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Delegate Angela Williams-Graves, and I represent the 90th House District, which is the wonderful city of Norfolk and a smidgen of Virginia Beach.
All right, and I would like to add that I represent the 100th District, the Eastern Shore, and a piece of Norfolk. And I guess with that, we will need to take attendance. If the clerk will open the roll, please. Right. All right, quorum's present. We first have a few administrative items. We have a few bills that are going to go by for the day. So if you're here to listen to House Bill 275, House Bill 479, House Bill 899, or House Bill 949. 276, Delegate Coiners. 479, Delegate Bulova. We have 899 is Delegate Lopez, and 948 is Delegate Hodges. I'm sorry, 949 is Delegate Trans. All been asked to go by for today. But I will tell the patrons we have 2 more meetings after this, and our dockets will be full, so we will do our best to get those on the dockets. With that, I'd like to call up Delegate Marshall, House Bill 184.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think, first of all, you have a substitute before you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm posting the substitute.
All right, can the delegate explain the substitute, please?
So the substitute has some language from DEQ that is clarifying, and so I'm going to ask DEQ to explain what clarifying means.
Hi, this is Mike Rollman. I'm the director of DEQ, but we support the amendment we support the bill with the amendment. But I'm going to have Brandon Bull explain the details of what he's trying to do. But I think it achieves what our goal is.
You director of DEQ.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Brandon Bull from the Department of Environmental Quality. What the substitute does is it's just some technical amendments to help the bill accomplish what Delegate Marshall is seeking to do here. Biggest thing it does is it lays out that where a locality is going to be taking on the stormwater work in another locality where the two are participating in one of these, regional industrial facility authorities, that it just has to be done pursuant to an agreement involving all parties. If you only have two localities at issue, that may not be as big a concern, but if you have multiple localities involved, you wouldn't want more than one entity trying to assert control, and it would just make sure that everything works out the way it needs to be done. Be happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions about what the substitute does? Yes, yes, sir.
Thank you. So I think, Mr. Bull, you got it exactly what I was, the only concern I had about this is if you had multiple VSMP authorities, how would you go ahead and do that so that you're not shopping those around? But yours basically says all the stakeholders got to get together and say, this VSMP is going to be the one that's going to take the lead by agreement, correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chair, Delegate Boulevard.
Great, thank you.
He told me you would like this amendment.
We need to accept it.
Can I move to adopt the amendment?
Do we hear a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, the substitute is agreed to.
So let me tell you what the bill does, Mr. Chairman and members. The proposed legislation does not change or impact any environmental regulations or weaken the intent of VSMP program or addressing any water quality or quantity. The proposed legislation reduces the workload and burden on an already overstressed VA DEQ team. The reduction of a permit review and approval of the team enables other permits located within non-stormwater administrative localities to be reviewed faster. So this legislation does not change or impact the checks and balances of ensuring that the VSMP program is best practices. So this only pertains to what is a RFA, and there are about 10 RFAs in the state of Virginia, and I think a couple more are coming, and I have a list of those if you would like to hear those. But I also have two people that should be in the queue to speak to you also, and that is the Director of Economic Development, Corey Teague Bobe from Danville, and Matt Rowe from Economic Development, Pennsylvania County. And that's part of one of the RFAs in the state of Virginia.
Yes, yes, sir. Any questions from the committee? We do have one person in the queue, Matthew Rowe, that would like to speak for the bill.
Matthew Rowe is not present.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone in the audience like to speak in favor of the bill? Would anyone like to speak against the bill? Hearing none, the committee operates with motions.
Move to report.
Second.
The bill has been properly moved and seconded. Open the roll, please. Bill reports 10-0.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Delegate Creasy.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee. Today before you I have House Bill 739. It's a bill brought to me by several of my constituents in the Mount Vernon area of Fairfax County. You know, we're right on the Potomac River, and we have a number of creeks and tidal waters and little rivers. This bill would amend the Living Shoreline Statute, which we passed last year, and it's now in code. And you know, I want you to know I'm a big proponent of that, very supportive of it. But this group of constituents who own property along these tidal creeks and the Potomac River in Fairfax County are concerned about that the current Living Shoreline Statute would result in potential loss of part of their land, and to accommodate that living shoreline. In fact, one of the constituents you're going to hear from after I finish is he has a living shoreline, so he's more worried about his neighbors. But there's a lot of costs that they would have to incur to remove their existing shoreline stabilization and install the living shoreline. This legislation would just allow for routine repairs to an existing living shoreline improvement to its previous condition, such as a bulkhead, a seawall, riprap used to prevent erosion. so long as the property owner provides the prompt notification and submission of a permit request. Would not include any new development, especially any development that's devoid of an existing shoreline improvement. So I'd like to ask my constituents who are online if they would testify. I've got Larry Zaragoza and Jay Spiegel who brought this bill to me and would like to speak. And I promised them that the chairman would give them 3 minutes each, and that's why I'm being quick. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Delegate. Any questions from the committee for the delegate about the bill?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Delegate Weber.
So, in regards to the current process, what does a landowner need to do in order to repair their current shoreline in order to, is there a current permit process for that already, or?
There is a process, and there's going to be some folks who are going to testify against the bill who I think can tell you a little bit more about that process, and so can my constituents who, but it's, so far, to my knowledge, it hasn't affected anybody in a negative way yet, but it's brand new. So, but the process, I think you got to go before the Wetlands Board, and, but why don't we hear from those guys, and then if you still have any questions, we can.
I like
all
that
right,
thought.
and just
Appreciate
thank
it.
Delegate Weber. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions, or you want to hear from them? Okay. All right, let's go for we'll go to the virtual room for those that want to speak in favor of. We've got Mr. Jay Spiegel.
Spiegel.
Mr.
Spiegel. Need to unmute, Jay.
There we are. May I begin?
Yes, sir, please.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I'm the person Delegate Krizik mentioned who already has a living shoreline that I put in 25 years ago. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to testify in favor of this bill. The amendments to Virginia Code Sections 28.2-104.1 and 1302 that matured from Senate Bill 776 in 2020 did not take into account property owners whose waterfront properties are already improved with one or more bulkheads, seawalls, riprap, and or other shoreline improvements. Those amendments were so broad that they give a wide discretion on the part of localities to require a property owner to replace their existing shoreline improvements with what the current law describes as a living shoreline. Installation of a living shoreline contemplates creating a sloped area shoreward of mean low water having a 10-to-1 slope ratio, meaning that for every foot of elevation, the living shoreline extends 10 feet horizontally. Such a requirement could take up most, if not all, of a property owner's land rearward of their residence. You can see the problem. House Bill 739 seeks to address the concerns of waterfront property owners by essentially grandfathering in existing shoreline improvements and permitting the property owner to repair them if they become damaged or deteriorate over time. These amendments are essential because the law as currently enacted gives too much discretion to, 1, the career employees of the Virginia Institute of Marine Science to enact regulations pertinent to this subject, 2, officials of the Virginia Marine Resources Commission who hear appeals of decisions of local wetlands boards where a jurisdiction has a wetlands board, otherwise the VMRC makes the decision, and 3, the politically appointed members of the local wetlands boards. In order to protect property owners while at the same time protecting the Commonwealth from a slew of lawsuits alleging that a requirement to replace an existing shoreline improvement with a living shoreline constitutes a taking without compensation, it is necessary to provide in the law guardrails that limit the discretion of VIMS, the VMRC, and the local wetlands boards to force a property owner to replace an existing shoreline improvement with a living shoreline instead of being permitted to perform repairs. I understand there are opponents of House Bill 739 who are concerned that if enacted into law, poorly constructed or severely damaged shoreline improvements or those constructed without proper permitting will become grandfathered. If this is a concern of the committee, I suggest 2 amendments. 1, limiting the grandfathering solely to those shoreline improvements that were permitted and constructed in accordance with the law that existed when they were constructed, if there was such a law in effect, and 2, for shoreline improvements that are in need of repair as of the effective date of enactment, the property owner will be given a reasonable period of time within which to perform necessary repairs. If the repairs are performed within the time limit, the shoreline improvements will be grandfathered in. If not, the property owner will be susceptible to having to defend against being required.
Mr. Spiegel, I'm sorry to cut you off. This 3 minutes. I'm sorry. We need to move on. We've got a lot of other people in the queue. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
The next is Dr. Larry Zaragoza. And if you could, please be brief, please.
Yes, my name is Larry Zaragoza, and I am, I live in Fairfax County. I'm here today to request your support for House Bill 739, which addresses unintended consequences of Senate Bill 776. The passage of the law arising from Senate Bill 776 fundamentally changes the permitting process to establish a living shoreline as a preferred alternative for all shoreline stabilization, unless the best available science shows that a living shoreline is not suitable. In the event that someone has a tree fall on their shoreline stabilization structure like a bulkhead or riprap, or they have maintenance that's required because things just wear out, a permit is needed in order to address that repair. Should a permit applicant seek to attain their existing seawall or riprap, they would likely need to obtain one or more experts to address issues like developing a justification for retaining their existing structure that reflects best available science. These can be a very expensive process. The law arising from Senate Bill 776 allows wetlands boards, the VMRC, to consider many site-specific considerations, but they do not include the consideration of the impacts to the property owner. The process is highly subjective and expensive for the applicant. VMRC staff, county staff, wetlands board members, and publications are consistent in their conclusion. As a result of Senate Bill 776 being enacted, a property owner may no longer be permitted to maintain or repair their seawall. An additional unintended consequence is that the denial of a request to repair or maintain can result in a takings of property because property must be taken to accommodate the living shoreline. Additional information is in my written statement. I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Anyone in the audience would like to speak in favor of this bill? All right, now we have a few online that want to speak against it, and I will add brevity is blessed. If the person in front of you says what you want to say, please just agree with them. First, we have Brent Hunsinger, Friends of the Rappahannock.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thank you for hearing me today. Like I said, my name is Brent Hunsinger. I'm with Friends of the Rappahannock. We indeed do oppose this bill. It is my understanding that there's a long-standing precedent that minor repairs to docks, bulkheads, seawalls, etc., actually do not require permitting if the footprint of the structure is not enlarged, and that any repairs and renovations can be done without a permit, and so therefore this bill is not needed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we have Pat Calvert from the Virginia Conservation Network.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. Pat Calvert, Virginia Conservation Network. We're the network of 150 plus conservation organizations. And for the reasons that Mr. Hunsinger just mentioned, and also because of the fact that this bill would restrict the ability of the Virginia Marine Resources Commission to consider sea level rise when reviewing joint permit applications to modify wetlands or subequatorial lands, we have a position to oppose HB 739. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Jay Ford.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Jay Ford with Chesapeake Bay Foundation. We appreciate the comments that were made by the delegate, and we appreciated the opportunity to speak with him about this. But as the previous speakers mentioned, there's long-standing, decades-long policy at the Marine Resource Commission that unless you are expanding the footprint and impacts to wetlands, that minor repairs to a shoreline treatment do not require a permit. So this is there's no real problem here for the legislation to solve. But furthermore, the proposed change would have significant unintended consequences given how broad the proposed language. This language could lead to wetlands impacts without obtaining a permit, which violates Virginia's no net loss. And in circumstances where disrepair is significant and long-term, this could negatively impact surrounding property owners. pushing water up onto their land, and they would have no recourse through the local wetlands board or the Marine Resource Commission. If this was an actual problem, we would be happy to work on language that ensured people could maintain their existing treatments with minimal hassle. However, as the delegate said, there has been no denial of permit, and no one's been forced into a living shoreline. So we would urge the committee to reject this proposal and not create a host of other problems when we're trying to solve one that doesn't exist. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you. And the last online virtual is William Stiles.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My name is William Stiles. I'm Executive Director of Wetlands Watch, a Norfolk-based environmental organization in Ms. Williams-Graves district. For all the reasons that my colleagues have mentioned, we're opposed to this bill. We feel it's premature, and there's no proof that administrative remedies won't fix or prevent the problem, so we don't see the need for legislation at this point. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And anyone in the room like to speak against the bill? Please come up and introduce yourself.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Anna Killius. I'm with the James River Association. We also spoke with the delegate staff, and we appreciated that opportunity to kind of share some of our concerns. We would ask that you oppose this bill as fixing a problem that doesn't exist. So thank you.
All right. Thank you. Any other comments? All right, the committee?
Chair.
Yes, sir.
If I could, I guess, speak to it and then have a motion if it's appropriately in order. I think in this case, VMRC has a long history of being able to manage shoreline projects, and I think it's important that we maintain that flexibility within the regulatory system. Not each project is going to be the same. And I think, as you heard, most of the time, the vast majority of the time, minor repairs are going to be allowed and there's not going to be a problem. But sometimes there can be unintended consequences, and if you've got a bulkhead on your property, that very well may go ahead and cause problems for other property owners who are also going to experience erosion problems. And so, again, I think the way that we have it set up now is very prudent. And Mr. Chairman, with that, I do have a motion. All right, Mr. Chairman, I would request that we gently lay this bill on the table.
I would gently second.
All right, we have a motion and properly seconded. All in favor of gently laying the bill on the table, please record your vote. Thank you. The bill is laid on the table 10-0.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The next on the sign-up sheet is Delegate LaRock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. There's an amendment that I would ask to have distributed and perhaps accepted by the committee.
Yes, sir. The amendment is online, and I'm happy to read it for members if that's helpful. On line, thank you. On line 61 of the introduced bill, after the word code, insert without prior approval of the local governing body. And on line 173, after the word subbasin, insert without prior approval of the local governing body.
Okay, has the committee had a chance to digest or have any questions about the amendments?
And Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, because it sounds like just reading those alone, you're saying they can do something without approval. The way the underlying sentences are written, it's actually saying that action should not be taken without the approval of the local governing body.
Thank you. So we need to have a motion on the...
I move the amendments.
Do I hear a second?
Second to get it out there.
Thank you. All in favor of adopting the amendment?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Question on the amendment.
Yes, sir.
All right, so I'm looking, well, just happened to, the last one was on line 171,
So could council explain to me what the amendment said, and in light of that, the way the wording is there, help me understand how that fits together.
Yes, sir. The underlying bill, looking specifically at that subsection that's line 167 to 173, had said that certain nutrient credits in adjacent fourth order subbasins could not be used in a locality with a population of fewer than 20,000 or geographically under 200 square miles. And this is saying now that they can, but only if the local governing body approves.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Doug will.
Forgive my ignorance. Which authority? The one that the credits lie in? The locality?
Mr. Chairman, my understanding is it would be the locality where the actual land disturbing activity is taking place would have to approve it.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Delegate Bova.
So I guess state that again, now that I'm paying attention. So it's not the locality in which the credit is being generated, it's the locality in which the land disturbance is being proposed that would have to go ahead and do the approval?
Mr. Chairman, the underlying bill would have put a prohibition against using credits from an adjacent fourth order subbasin in certain small localities. And this is still putting that prohibition in place unless the locality where the land disturbing activity is taking place says it's okay.
Okay, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Delegate Bova.
I think I understand that. So the credit is being generated in Clark County. The land disturbing activity is in Loudoun County. Loudoun County would have to go ahead and approve.
Mr. Chairman, yes, that's correct, but this is only in situations where the population of the locality is less than 200,000, is less than 20,000, and where the geographic area is under 200 square miles of the locality. So probably not Loudoun per se.
Mr. Chairman, if I may jump in?
Yes, sir.
Thank you to Ms. Wallmeyer, for drafting this in short order. And apparently we didn't communicate that what I think is probably Delegate Bullock is suspicious and others are suspicious of, is the intent was to allow the governing body of the county where this credit would be consumed, if you will, would be the governing body that would have the authority to ultimately accept or reject the credit. So not in that case, I think perhaps land disturbing activity might be taking place in both counties, and that perhaps is part of the confusion. But to my understanding of nutrient offset credits, am I using the proper terminology? Nutrient credits are used to offset development, so there's land disturbing activity there, but they, in the county where they would be consumed or applied, they actually limit land disturbing activity, if I'm not mistaken. So if the council is advising us that as the amendment, as you're reading it, limits the county where the development is taking place, that was not the intention. But again, sorry for asking for this at the last minute, and I'll take the responsibility for any confusion that may have been the result of my timing.
So, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
All right, so question. So the goal of the legislation, its intent, is to say you've got a county that's less than 20,000 people in the geographic under 200 square miles, which is, there's probably 20 counties that are localities that are of this make. Basically, it says that you can't purchase those credits because there's mitigation that would be done in that locality. And basically what you'd like to say is you can't do it unless the locality says that you can.
That's the intention, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Maybe I could make a suggestion. think that the amendment that's being proposed is kind of the opposite of what the patron would like. I'm sure it could probably be fixed, but maybe we could go ahead and think about the underlying policy of the bill, see if there's interest in doing that, and then I think we can go ahead and work on amendments if necessary, but it might be worthwhile having that debate on the underlying policy, and if I can undo my second to the amendment, that might help move us along.
Okay, so now we're
Mr. Chair, I would just withdraw my motion.
okay. So now we have an amendment that is before us. Do we have a motion on it? So the amendment dies for lack of a motion. So now we're dealing with the underlying bill. So please present the bill.
Thank you. And again, I apologize for the timing and any confusion. Mr. Chairman, with your permission to do this, this is a couple statements that generally apply to the consumption of premium farmland, and also a picture which is not Clark County. I want to make that perfectly clear, but it's just a good visual illustration. So very simply, all of these words on the paper pertain to a program put in place by the Department of Environmental Quality, and a program which I have, I would consider it's just a fine program accomplishing what it needs to do. But the effect it's having on a Clark County, a small county in the district that I serve, is rather significant, and that which is why we're proposing that the local government might have the say whether or not these credits would be accepted in Clark County. So if you know the geography of Northern Virginia, very, very simply, there's a lot of development taking place there. Winchester, Loudoun County, Fairfax County. Clark is a rather rural county, kind of nestled in between there. It's adjacent to 5 out of the 7 Potomac River hubs where these credits are generated. Clark County has seen over, I think it's 13,000, no, excuse me, over 1,000, excuse me, a pretty significant percentage of their farmland, prime farmland, sold into perpetual easements, which would mean that forever nothing will be grown on this farmland. That is a rather drastic change for this county, which is primarily agricultural, would like to stay that way. They have preserved the county through the zoning that's been well established and protected for many, many years. So again, the program itself, don't take exception to that. The proposal is just that before significantly more land is consumed and taken out of agriculture in Clark County, that the Board of Supervisors would have the authority to decide whether, perhaps, I think one of the deciding factors would be, is this premium farmland? If it was not, then I'm quite sure that I can't speak for the board, but there is a board member here that they would deem that to be a good application of the credits. But if it was prime farmland, I think they might rule otherwise. So again, the amendment, as I think has been made clear, the underlying purpose was to give them the discretion. I think you'll hear testimony that I think it's rather significant, that Clark County has actually consumed a significant percentage of the credits that have been issued in Virginia, almost 7.2%. So for a county that is rather small, and the reason we have on lines 60 to 61 identified counties under the population of 20,000 and under 200 square miles is that's very few counties in Virginia, ones that might be disproportionately affected by this, and also to limit the effect that this would have on the program overall, and so as not to restrict it any more than necessary. I think that generally covers the important points, Mr. Chairman, and glad to try to answer any questions that I can or address any of the comments from speakers. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The committee, we have questions from the committee for the patron? Yes, sir, Delegate Will.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, so Delegate Rock, help me understand. So you don't want Clark County to sell credits?
Mr. Chairman, whenever your question is complete. The credits are actually generated in adjacent areas to Clark County, counties or areas adjacent where there's intense development. Clark County may well be receptive to accepting those credits, but they would like to be able to limit them so that their primarily agricultural county isn't turned into scrubby forest land. It's the program, I think, stipulates that it's managed forestry, but there's really no guarantee that, for example, if these credits are issued to an LLC, that LLC will be in existence in perpetuity. In fact, it's very likely that it won't. So it's going to be sometimes managed, sometimes unmanaged forest land instead of agricultural. So the priority of Clark County is not to block the credits, but to have control over them.
Follow-up question?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, so you don't want someone to buy credits in another locality and use those to build or do whatever with Clark County's land? Is that?
I think we're getting closer, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, so where the transaction actually takes place is probably not quite as important as the need is generated in an area where there is development, significant development. It is potentially offset in an area where there is no development or the property is agricultural. So the transaction where that takes place actually, I think, is purchased from a property owner who puts property, say in this case, Clark County, into a perpetual easement, agreeing to not use it as for agricultural purposes in perpetuity. I hope I've made that clear.
Delegate Lopez?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So very quick question for the patron. Under this definition, how many municipalities, how many counties would be eligible or would fall under this definition of if 20,000 or 200 square miles?
Well, Delegate Lopez, I think you'll probably hear testimony from some folks who may not be in favor of this. I think that they told me that it's 5 counties in Virginia that would fall under these population and area thresholds.
Okay, and we'll find out what those counties are in a second.
Yeah, I hope I'm close.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just wanted to kind of make one clarifying point with respect to how the process works. And so the credits are generated in Clark County in your case. And so whether that's land conversion, whether that's a stream restoration, you've got a credit bank. And so by making environmental improvements, they generate nutrient and sediment credits, and then they can sell those to developers in Loudoun or Fairfax or Fauquier or Prince William or whatever the surrounding localities are in order to be able to mitigate the impacts that their development has on water resources. So the credit generation is actually would be in Clark County. I guess my question for you is, I know that your immediate concern is the issue of prime farmland. This bill, of course, addresses all land area within Clark County. How would Clark County identify prime farmland? Have they mapped that out? And I guess the reason I'm asking is because I know that Delegate Kilgore has a bill in to do just that. Because I guess Virginia doesn't have great resources in terms of being able to define and then map prime agricultural lands. We're all singing off the same song sheet. But can you kind of speak to what kind of resources Clark would have and how they would do that in a non-arbitrary manner?
Mr. Chairman, not specifically. In a county as small as Clark County, I suspect supervisors would not only know the soil and what was being grown on it, they probably know the name of the people that own it and who's owned it for the last 50 years. But as far as the level of mapping, soils mapping and current uses, I can't tell you specifically how that would be determined, but perhaps Supervisor McKay could speak to that at the appropriate time.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is, how does this particular bill improve development?
Well, I would have to admit, Delegate Graves, that the focus of this bill is not intended to improve development. I'm a home builder by trade, so I'm certainly interested in and sympathetic to the needs of those who consume building lots and undertake different kinds of development. But me and myself and Clark County are interested in, our primary interest is protecting the interest of Clark County and hoping that the effect on development is minor.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the committee? Hearing none, I don't think we have any virtual sign-ups. So now we move to the audience. Anyone would like to speak in favor of this bill? Please introduce yourself.
My name is Bev McKay. I'm actually a resident of Clark County. I'm on the Board of Supervisors in Clark County. I've got a little statement I'd like to read. It's our understanding that House Bill 702, submitted by Dave LaRocque, would prevent nutrient credits from being created in Clark County through land conversion to be sold to offset development in Northern Virginia. The creation of nutrient credits in Clark County has resulted in over 1,800 acres being converted through this program or eligible for it. In a number of circumstances, this has resulted in active farmland being converted to forest so that the credits could be sold to offset development occurring outside of our jurisdiction. While we don't necessarily oppose the environmental benefits of this program, our proximity to Northern Virginia has made us a target for these conversion activities. We support this bill as the land use decisions made in other localities shouldn't threaten farmland in Clark County. I'm also on the Farm Bureau Board of Directors for Clark County, and we universally supported it, unanimously supported it. We've lost a lot of farmland because of the way the program is written. They take to do these things, and there are people come in and buy farms whenever they can find them. They buy them, they sell the nutrient credits. You get the most nutrient credits from an acre of ground that is currently in corn. If it was in hay, the same acre doesn't get you as many nutrient credits. So you sell that, and as soon as you sell it, you have nothing else to sell. This has to be in forest in perpetuity. They plant pine trees in them. And if somebody wants to come and look at some of these, I'd be more than happy to show you these. We'd have a little Board of Supervisors meeting. You get a few straggly pine trees, and they don't manage them so far. And the question I have is who's going to see what happens to it, see that they continue to be in forest when these LLCs go belly up. Somebody doesn't renew them. There's no real incentive to renew the LLC because you've already sold all of its value. So it was probably good intended, but you know, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And I think this may be one of them. Oh, he's going to kill me.
Thank you.
Is there any question I can answer?
Yes, Delegate William Graves.
I do have a question with regard to something you said about, and I understand when you talked about no incentive for the owner to renew their LLC or keep the property or anything like that. Is there the ability for the locality, you all are a Board of Supervisors, correct? Okay, thank you. Is there an ability for the Board of Supervisors to perhaps create an ordinance or some sort of perpetuity requirement, kind of like cemeteries do, so that the upkeep, maintenance, and all of that would be ongoing after the sale of the credits and the value is gone?
A cemetery is the people who support cemeteries, and we have some very old ones there, tend to have a sort of a vested interest in having their relatives there. These things, when you sell the tax credit or the nutrient credits, there's no value there anymore except possibly the pulpwood value for the trees, which takes 25 years. And if there's no one there to make sure that they plant the trees again, and the trees die to get beat up in storms, you know, And that's what's happening already. You can see that pretty easy. So I don't think there's any incentive for anybody to do anything. It's a bizarre situation, in my opinion. And like I say, I think it was good
All right.
intended. I don't think it was done maliciously or anything. I think it just has turned out not as the founders of it anticipated.
All right, let's move on to anyone else want to speak in favor of the bill? Anyone want to speak against the bill?
Mr. Chairman, Martha Moore, Virginia Farm Bureau, and we're supportive of the bill. We've heard from our members, as just relayed to you in Clark County as well as in Fauquier County, that they've kind of been subject to a lot of land getting taken out of people's farming operations. They lease a lot of that land, and it is proving to be a challenge, and they would really like the localities to have some say as to whether this can occur in their particular locality. So we have policy to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone like to speak? Anyone else in favor of it? Anyone would like to speak against the bill?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Shannon Varner with Troutman Pepper here on behalf of a number of the organizations that actually create these nutrient banks. And we're opposed to the legislation. I think Clark County has been a victim of some circumstances that no longer exist. It was a popular place for the location of land conversion banks because of the number of credits you could generate there was high compared to other areas, and it is located adjacent to 4 other HUC codes that the banks could sell into. In 2020, the Department of Environmental Quality changed the number of credits that you can get in that HUC code significantly, so that it is now the second from the bottom in the number of credits you can generate in the entire Potomac River watershed. So it is no longer attractive to the industry as a place to locate banks. And I don't believe since that change there has been any nutrient banks proposed or land conversion banks proposed in Clark County. And this also, the bill would also have a significant impact on a lot of landowner and expectations. They've worked with the industry and my folks to create these nutrient banks, to generate income, to use that income for other portions of their farm, to maintain it as open space or agricultural land rather than to be moved into development. And my clients also make investments based on these service areas that would be restricted by this bill and would, in essence, strand a lot of those assets that have been put in there because there would be no market for them. So it really impacts a lot of property rights. It impacts a lot of the market-based system and system that we have here. I also want to point out that his bill does not just apply to land conversion. This planting of trees would apply to any kind of nutrient credits. And the industry has really moved away from the land conversions to try to do much more stream restoration work, which doesn't take those acres of land that he is concerned about. So, the problem, if there is one, has already been addressed through the regulatory programs and the steps that the industry is going to be taking. And for all these different issues, I hope you oppose the bill. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Delegate Bola.
Just ask a quick question of Mr. Varner because the issue of financial insurance was brought up. I guess it's my understanding that there's a lot of legal protections with respect to maintaining a nutrient credit bank in perpetuity, but could you very briefly speak to those protections? Because I hate for people to be left with the impression that people can put these in and then leave without any kind of ramifications.
Yes, it's part of the process, and it's a very involved process. It's not just going out and planting a bunch of trees. You have to go through and get it approved by a management plan approved by DEQ, and under those regulations, they have to have a forest management plan that includes things like addressing invasive species and all of that. And there is annual reporting on how that piece of property is doing, so it has to be kept up. And one more thing, I'm sorry, there are restrictions put on the property to preserve it like that.
Yes, sir. Delegate Williams Graves.
Thank you. So with regard to the concern that the Board of Supervisors member has in terms of the value being sucked out of the land, basically, how can that be resolved for this county, either going forward or in its existing, with the issues that they currently have?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, Delegate, I don't think that there is economic value being sucked out of the county. I think it is actually adding economic value in the form of the timber that's being created, because these are managed, they can be harvested. And it's not, it is a landowner decision as to whether or not one of these nutrient banks will be put on their property. And there's value in that, as opposed, more value, it's a cost-benefit decision they would make. Is it more valuable to farm some very difficult to farm land, or should I put some trees on here, make some money now, make some money in the future when I can harvest those trees so that they can regenerate? So I don't know that it is a suck on the economy that way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience like to speak against the bill briefly, please?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Evan Bernofsky. I'm with the Home Builders Association of Virginia. We oppose the bill. And to understand why, I think it's important to understand what regulatory requirements developers face. We really have three options to comply with our post-construction stormwater requirements. We can install best management practices on site, we can pay into a regional facility if and when they exist, or we can buy nutrient credits. Usually by the time we've gotten to the point of buying nutrient credits, we've exhausted those first two options. And so if you restrict the marketplace for us and you don't allow us to comply off-site through the acquisition and use of nutrient credits, that is really crippling economic development and ultimately increasing the cost for housing in the Commonwealth. I would also just note, we did look at Weldon Cooper population and also locality geographic size, and our number was close to 20 counties and independent cities in just about every town. So that's quite significant, and for those reasons, we have to respectfully oppose. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, Phil Abraham, representing the Virginia Association for Commercial Real Estate. We're commercial industrial developers in Northern Virginia, Hampton Roads, and the greater Richmond area. We share these concerns and are concerned that you are, by prohibiting these banks in certain localities, you're just going to push the banks into other localities. What we really need to do is, I think, get all the stakeholders together and look at ways to protect prime farmland rather than just prohibiting any of these banks in specific localities across the state. This is going to greatly impact development in Virginia and I think have a lot of unintended consequences. So we hope you won't support this bill. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else speak in favor of the bill or against the bill? All right.
Mr. Chairman, if I may just have a quick last word.
Last word.
Taking up a lot of time. I think it's apparent from the testimony that this is development interests that would like to have the freedom through this program to have a significant impact on a county that is primarily a rural agricultural county and would like to stay that way. It's a program that was created at the state, and if there's to be a minor tweak to take into consideration these unique interests, I hope the board will act favorably upon the bill and give the county government the authority to accept or reject. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Yes, sir. Delegate Belva.
My big concern is that we're doing this piecemeal, and my bigger concern is just how this relates to private property rights. Mr. Chairman, I have a motion.
In your motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would gently lay this bill on the table.
Second.
Bill has been, we have a motion and properly seconded to lay the bill on the table.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Speaking of motion. I share some of Delegates Boliva's concerns. However, this issue is actually quite personal to me. And part of the reason I kind of like the idea of the bill, but I I think it doesn't go far enough almost, in that we need to really have a strong discussion in regards to this, because I actually had land that went into a bank and I lost leased land that then went into trees. I was compensated for that loss. But again, as the gentleman said, 2 years ago, the definition of those agricultural lands changed too, and in and around where I am in Fauquier, we actually some of these banks stopped. However, I think the biggest concern that, at least for me, as somebody in agriculture, is that you have a lot of farms that, while they do own their family farm, they also lease a boat ton of land. And depending on the type of agriculture that you do, whether it's, certain commodities, et cetera, the loss of a land, whether it be to nutrient banks, solar, et cetera, can be substantial. And the loss of that land, a couple hundred acres, can be substantial to the income of a family, the income of an operation. And so I think that this conversation needs to go a little bit further than it will today, and that a piecemeal, Band-Aid isn't going to work. We need to have a much bigger discussion on the value of agriculture, because to me personally, and I'm going to say this, I can eat a steak, I can't eat a tree, and I can't eat a solar panel. And I don't know about you, but there's a whole lot of people that still need to eat. So with that, unfortunately, I will be voting negatively on this bill, but I am certainly hopeful that we have a much bigger and broader conversation. Thank you.
All right, so the bill has been properly put before us. So the motion is to lay the bill on the table. And it has been properly seconded. All in favor of laying the bill on the table, vote on the board. Motion is laid on the table, 9-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I will say that this is the committee, thank you, Delegate Rock, as has been for the last 8 or 9 years, where development meets agriculture. So this issue has been brought before us and duly noted of the issue. Thank you. All right.
I have a quick question, Mayor. And it's actually with regard to the committee, and I'm still new, so forgive me if I'm not in order, if you will. But in terms of what we just talked about in delegated questions with regard to the larger picture of farms and solar and agriculture, where is the appropriate place to work to have that conversation?
Well, as you will see on our docket, we will have at least 4 or 5 more bills that deal with this. And last year, I know Delegate Belliva had one that was all-encompassing that has had about 6 months to get into place that we worked with last year. So we'll have lots of conversations about this for generations to come, I'm afraid. But the next bill up, will I think Delegate Willett's been here for a while. General, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's also a substitute for this bill that I believe was shared yesterday with the subcommittee.
All right. Explain the substitute quickly.
Yes, I can do. I can have staff weigh in as necessary, but I'll tell you just real quickly, this amendment would require the Water Control Board to determine site suitability of any project or development before issuing or reissuing a permit. This is already the current practice and when required by regulation, so this just updates the code to mirror the regulations.
Okay, so we have a substitute in front of us. Do we have a motion? All right, so we have a motion to adopt the substitute. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, all opposed? All right, the substitute is agreed to. All right, go ahead and present the bill.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, members of the subcommittee. This legislation would require the State Water Control Board to consider social and economic impacts that a project would have on historically marginalized communities during what is called an anti-degradation analysis. Basically, in a nutshell, what we're trying to do with this bill is make it on the water side parallel what's already done on the air side. So right now, the Air Pollution Control Board already goes through this analysis. What we're suggesting here in this bill is to have the same type of analysis when we're dealing with water. to be more specific about their disproportionate impacts on the communities of low income and rural populations in the state. This bill would require to put a focus on that and to look at those disproportionate impacts and basically try to ensure that all Virginians are having access to clean water in the Commonwealth.
All right, any questions from the committee on what the bill does?
Mr. Chairman? Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you. So just from one standpoint, so how would you measure? You said it's being done on air permits. So how do they measure the economic, social development, so forth, the impact? How's that done?
Yeah, I would, Mr. Chairman, Delegate, I would definitely defer to DEQ on that, or I actually would say to the for Air Pollution Control Board, defer to them how they're doing. I know there is a standard. How it's applied, I'd have to defer to them on that. But the term itself is defined in code. It's used elsewhere. So this is not the first time it's appearing. But again, in terms of the application, that would be left through the regulatory process.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Delegate Ransom.
do we have anyone from DEQ here? And typically permits like this go through DEQ, not the board.
Good afternoon. Sorry, can't talk with this. I'm Mike Rollban. I'm the director of DEQ. At this time, unfortunately, we don't have a position, so it's still being reviewed at the governor's office.
Mr. Chairman, well, there are some other folks who can testify too, so I think we may know more on that process.
We'll go to those. I've got some in virtual. So if the committee has any more questions. All right, let's go to virtual first, and we will go to the ones that have signed up far. I've got a Miss Goodrum. Is she in the room?
Yes, I am.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chairman and members of the committee, for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Jacqueline Goodrum, and I'm a resident of Albemarle County. I'm speaking today in support of House Bill 393, and I comment today in my professional capacity as a conservation policy associate for Wild Virginia, a statewide nonprofit organization seeking to protect water quality for all Virginians. I urge you to support this bill because it aims to ensure that DEQ and the Water Board consider local communities' interests when deciding whether or not to lower water quality of a local water body when they're conducting their anti-degradation analysis. Every community, rural, suburban, or urban, should be able to have a say in what happens to their local waters. Such waters provide tremendous value for local communities, including but not limited to enhanced property values for riparian and nearby landowners, as well as economic benefits from water-based recreation and tourism. However, not every community has power, influence, or even reliable internet access to be able to participate in environmental decision-making. This bill seeks to ensure that DEQ and the board do not overlook the interests of local communities and the impacts of lowered water quality on those communities. Now, I think it's important to note that this bill seeks to achieve this outcome by expressly including the social economic analysis requirement in the statutory text. This does not create a new obligation for DEQ. This is an analysis that must already be considered under the anti-degradation policy as well as the Clean Water Act. We are asking to include this text in the statutory section of the Virginia Code that concerns water quality in order to highlight and emphasize the importance of this analysis in order to ensure fair decision-making and compliance with this analysis. Thank you for considering my testimony today.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry I couldn't hear you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for allowing me to speak, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee. I'm David Sly with Wild Virginia, and in the interest of saving your time, I'm not going to repeat what my colleague just said. I'll just say that this is an analysis that is always supposed to have been done and is done in certain circumstances. We just think it's important to emphasize the rights and the interests of the folks who live in the specific area and use those specific waters. And we think this kind of language will help do that. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Peggy Sanner. All right. Next is Pat Calvert.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Pat Calvert, Virginia Conservation Network. For the reasons you just heard from our members at Wild Virginia, our organization and network is in support of HB 393 and appreciative to Delegate Willett for bringing it.
All right. Thank you. And then Karen Camplin. Peggy's in. Is Karen Camplin in the room? All right, I think Peggy has joined the room now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, I'm Peggy Sanner, Chesapeake Bay Foundation. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today, and I appreciate the intent and direction of the bill that is before us. It's a bill that would enhance transparency when the board and DEQ make determinations about the economic and social impact of potential pollution inputs to waterways. We think this is a very important element. We are also aware that site suitability, as the delegate mentioned earlier, is an element in certain air board analyses. So it is relevant that DEQ at this minute is conducting a regulatory development process to determine and to clarify how site suitability can be determined. Certainly that process will yield insights that are potentially applicable in this context. We support the bill and thank the delegate for bringing it.
Is Ms. Camplin in the room now?
Yes, hi, good afternoon, thank you. Hi, my name is Karen Camblin, and I'm here in my capacity as the Environmental and Climate Justice Committee Chair for the Virginia State Conference and AACP, and we are also in support of this bill. We don't feel this bill will create significant impact in order to implement this bill. However, we strongly feel that this bill will help to protect our natural resources, our rural communities, most importantly, our vulnerable populations and our local farmlands. And this will also provide a well-needed opportunity for the for intentional public outreach activities, particularly with our local residents, who are the most equipped in providing the nuanced level of details that are needed in decision-making processes like this. And so this is a really great opportunity to be able to have and expand our public outreach and working with our local residents. And so we urge you to vote yes for this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone in the room like to speak in favor of the bill?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Jessica Sims, and I'm speaking on behalf of Appalachian Voices in support of HB 393. We feel it's important to include social and economic demographics when reviewing projects which require discharges into high-quality water. Depending on the nature of the permit, they can appear before the DEQ or members of the State Water Control Board. Making this an expressly stated part of the review can help prevent disproportionate impacts to overburdened populations, especially rural populations. Many of the rural communities that are impacted by projects rely on the water resources located on their property for their livelihoods, from farming to raising livestock. If a project can cause an economic impact, the social and economic demographics should receive review. This bill would simply iterate that existing requirement, as you heard from previous speakers. We ask you to please support HB 393, and we thank Delegate Willett for introducing this bill. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you.
Hi, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Chris Lane with the Virginia League of Conservation Voters, and for the reasons articulated by Wild Virginia, the NAACP, Appalachian Voices, the Virginia Conservation Network, and the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, we support this bill and the efforts and the intent of the patron to ensure robust community engagement that preserves water quality in Virginia. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Bob Shippey with Sierra Club. We support the bill.
Thank you. And anyone else for? All right. So now we'll go to the ones that would like to speak against the bill. I have one signed up virtually, Mr. Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, good afternoon. We do oppose this bill. We think that some of the language is subjective, and we would ask that you please oppose. Thank you.
Thank you. And anyone in the room would like to speak against the bill? Yes.
Who was the last speaker? I'm sorry, I didn't catch it.
It was Mr. Beck Stanley of the Virginia Agribusiness Council. Anyone else in the room like to speak against the bill? All right, the bill is before us. If you have any other questions or DEQ or anyone?
Second.
Substitute motion. We have a motion of a higher order. Second.
And I can speak, substitute motion to lay the bill on the table. I'm happy to speak to that motion.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
And properly seconded. Delegate Ransom.
Well, my concern is that we would treat every application the same, whether it's in the urban area, whether it's in the city, or whether it's in an affluent neighborhood, or in a rural area with a non-affluent neighborhood. Every application should be treated the same. That's what I would say to the delegate. And it should be, looked at with all sets of eyes to make sure that we're, making sure that that application is doing what it's supposed to do. So with that, I appreciate your bill and your intent. And I believe that DEQ is always looking out for everyone. So thank you.
All right, so we have a motion properly seconded to lay the bill on the table, House Bill 393. Please open the roll. Motion is laid on the table, 6-4. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Delegate Tran, I think you've waited a long time.
Thank you. I wasn't sure if you saw me behind the podium. Oh, let me get this next one. Just because I'm barely peeked above the podium. But thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to speak about House Bill 959 with you today. Clean waterways are an important part of Virginia's economy, contributing to the $22 billion tourism and outdoor industries. And those industries need to know the conditions of our rivers, streams, and bay so they can protect their customers and run their businesses. Moreover, these spills can have a dangerous effect on human health and general outdoor recreation. Currently, DEQ must share information about spills into our public waterways if VDH determines that the spill may be detrimental to public health, or DEQ determines that it may impair beneficial uses of our waters. You may recall in 2020, we passed my House Bill 1205, which Delegate Lopez had worked on previously as well, which required DEQ to report on potential options for ensuring timely notification of unpermitted discharges while excluding spills with only a de minimis or trivial minimal impact. DEQ came back with that report in 2021, and HB 959 reflects the option that they recommend to codify some of the existing practices by requiring DEQ to notify the public of spills that have more than a de minimis impact. We do leave it up in this bill for DEQ to define what more than de minimis impact would have in regulations, but in its report, they suggested, from working with subject matter experts both at DEQ and VDH, that defining more than a de minimis impact would include the following situations: a significant fish kill, with or without a documented pollution discharge, shellfish bed closure determined by the Virginia Department of Health, significant non-precipitation related sewage incidents that are reaching surface waters, harmful algae blooms determined to be present by the Department of Health, concern for human contact with contamination in surface waters that could result in water intake impact, including drinking water, industrial uses, and agricultural uses. I welcome your questions today.
All right. Thank you, Delegate Tran. Do we have any questions from the committee? Yes, sir. Delegate Fowler.
Thank you. This is going to be a question for DQ, but so I anticipate the question for the department. But what would be an example of unpermitted discharge?
Oops. Sorry. First of all, I have to say that we don't have a position at this time. But to answer your technical question, for example, the U.S. Navy in Norfolk, they'll report discharges of an ounce of paint when they're painting a ship. So that's de minimis, and historically we would not make a big public outreach for that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? All right, hearing none, we've got a few people signed up on this bill to speak for it virtually. Is Pat Calvert in the room?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me, Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'm here on behalf of Virginia Conservation Network. It's our pleasure to report that we very much support this in response to the comment, I guess, about the federal agency and its determination of de minimis. I don't think that necessarily requires that DEQ would make such an estimation. In fact, I think many of us would rely on DEQ to hopefully come up with what is a reasonable, rational determination of a de minimis discharge. So with that, it is our position to support this legislation because people deserve to know what's in their water, particularly if there's an unsafe situation where they might be swimming or boating or fishing. So with that, I appreciate your time.
Thank you. And we have, speaking also for it, is Dr. Joe Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Joe Wood. I'm with the Chesapeake Bay Foundation. We support this bill, which we think would provide valuable information to the public about the state of our waterways, and we'd ask for your support. Thank you.
All right. Is anyone in the room who would like to speak in favor of the bill?
Mr. Chairman, Anna Kilias with the James River Association. To give one more example of potentially an unpermitted discharge that we would have an interest in folks knowing about, that would include a sewage main break where you have sewage water going into a river, like what happened in the Richmond area this summer, where VDH actually had to suggest people not use a portion of the river for a period of time. That's the sort of information we want to see come out in a timely manner. So paddlers, anglers, even the outfitters that are renting boats can advise people, maybe don't use that part of the river, maybe move a little upstream, wait for that to dissipate. So I think this bill we see as just a way to get more information out in a timely manner so people can make informed decisions. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, a point. So I think I just heard you say that there was a spill and it was reported properly.
Right, and
Correct?
this would help the agencies make that clear about when and if they're going to report those sorts of spills.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Delegate Runyon.
A question, have we had an issue with the agencies not
Mr. Chair, I would respond by saying that right now the threshold to report is two things. One, if VDH determines it's a public health emergency, and the second, if DEQ determines that there is, like, it may impair beneficial use of water. So there's kind of a clear, it's more gray. Clearly the threshold for when VDH determines that there's a public health situation is pretty high. And what this bill does, in working with the DEQ and the stakeholders in the consultation process in the last year and a half, is to help to clarify that, you know, we don't want every single spill, an ounce of this and a pint of that, for to be notified to the public, because if it's truly not dangerous or impactful, we don't want folks to panic and get into a situation where they're also not paying attention to the notifications. At the same time, we don't want it, you know, there might be other situations, for example, a sewage outbreak, where it's important to know before, you know, it might reach a certain threshold around public health. And so by allowing DEQ to define what a de minimis impact is and saying we will notify it above that threshold, we think helps to thread that policy needle.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I guess to that point, and kind of one of the reasons why I'm excited about this bill, it's not that spills aren't getting reported. It's what Delegate Tran was saying, is that there's kind of a gray area in there where either the public or the person being regulated or the regulating authority doesn't know whether something has met that threshold or not. And you see that a lot in state and federal regulations. And so, you know, what constitutes a significant spill? You know, what constitutes maximum extent practicable? And I think what is really nice about this bill is it boils it down to, is it de minimis or is it more than just a de minimis impact? And then has DEQ actually come up with some definitions or examples. And so I think it's meant to help the public, certainly a regulator, but also the regulated community to avoid you know, making mistakes or not reporting something when they ought to, or the exact opposite. So it's just meant to provide some clarity around a very gray area, and I commend the delegate for doing that.
Thank you. Delegate Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to make sure it's clear in my mind that it's getting to that challenge what we have to do anyway. Guess I'm trying to figure out who's going to decide what a de minimis discharge us is, you know, us or DEQ, and it looks like to me like DEQ's already, you know, kind of doing a pretty good job. So again, I'm kind of wondering whether or not this bill is actually needed. But anyway.
All right. More people like to speak in favor of the bill?
Yeah.
Bob Shippey, Sierra Club, we support the bill.
Chris Lane, Virginia League of Conservation Voters. We support this bill. This bill came about and is a result of a study where they're working on this on approaches to improve reporting for about 2 years, and we're excited to see the adoption of a least cost approach to use the existing notification structure to allow DEQ to establish the standard, but really to have that consistency of focus where we represent a lot of people who don't want an ounce of paint keeping folks out of the river, who actively want to use our waterways as much as possible, and really thank the delegate for bringing this forward.
All right, anyone else in favor of? All right, so now we have a virtual sign up to speak against the bill. Is Brett Bassey in the room?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, we appreciate the intent of this, but we have seen this bill 4 consecutive years, and every year we're told we're done. We have made all the accommodations necessary for compliance, and every year the threshold gets lower. So let me give you another point of view. We've heard that we need to do this in order to assure that waterways, toxic impaired or just impaired waterways, are reported. I draw your attention to line 14 of the bill. Nothing has changed in a decade in that reporting. That is always a requirement. The other thing that no one talked about was, as far as citizen engagement, line 21, the citizen hotline. Citizen hotline has been operating successfully, again, I believe over a decade. Really what's happening here with this bill, and I think folks are losing sight of this, is on lines 30 through 36, you are lowering the standard for reporting. Last year, we actually changed the obligations on DEQ from traditional reporting as well to be social media advocates on top of that. I draw your attention to lines 30 and 31, where they now have to disseminate through quote email lists and social media platforms. We don't even know what that means. But the big issue here is going from a standard where the discharge has a detrimental effect on public health, as determined by the Department of Health. to a standard that just says any discharge, line 32, unless the department determines that it has a de minimis impact on the beneficial use of state waters. That's very important. And then finally, all this is connected to the enactment clause. And don't forget this part on line 38, de minimis impact on the beneficial uses of state waters. These are all terms of art in legal proceedings and in enforcement proceedings, and we're mixing some apples and oranges. I think what is being presented as an overly simplistic change is actually a major reduction in the standard and the threshold for which you have to report, and you are required for public disclosure. And by the way, this public disclosure is to the universe. So you're going to create some panic with this for, quote, any discharge rather than a discharge where there is an impairment. That is a very different standard. We ask you to oppose the bill.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the room that would like to speak against the bill?
Can I have some closing statements, Mr. Chair?
Closing word. Yes, ma'am.
Remarks. Thank you. I'd like to address the last witness specifically. I don't think that we've been secretive at all in our determination to relook at this section of the code. It was in the enactment clause in 2020 that DEQ was going to conduct a study to define de minimis impact. I think that was very public, and we did work with the Manufacturing Association on that bill, even though they didn't agree with it at the end, but to try to address their concerns. And I think the vast majority of us would agree that notification beyond newspaper is important, since the vast majority of our communities don't have a weekly newspaper anymore. So email and social media can be easily defined, and we all know what that is. But yes, at the heart of this bill, it is to make sure that there's additional notification when it is below what could be considered a public health impact, but above what might be considered, trivial. And as I said, in the report that DEQ provided to us is public, that they have suggested defining more than a de minimis impact as significant fish kill, shell bed closure determined by VDH, significant non-precipitation related sewage incident reaching surface waters, a harmful algae bloom determined by VDH, concern for human contact with contamination, or contamination in surface waters that could result in water intake impact. And if you're not concerned about those situations, then that raises a whole different set of questions and worries. I hope that it is the pleasure of this committee to pass this bill.
Mr. Chairman. Move to report.
Second.
Good.
Mr. Chairman. Substitute motion. And if I have a substitute motion to table the bill, if I could speak to that motion, please. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, and I certainly appreciate Delegate Tran, what, your intent here, but if I understood what you just said and some other testimony, DEQ and the health department in one form or fashion already report these things. I mean, I think you just cited that, those qualifiers, if you will, if this kind of spill happened, fish kill, those would exceed the de minimis level. Subsequently, they report it in these various venues. And so, yes, while I appreciate what you're trying to do, I think it's already being covered. So with that, that's the reason for my motion.
So we have a motion properly put forth and seconded to lay the bill on the table. House Bill 959. Please record your vote. Bill is laid on the table 6-4.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee.
I think we have Delegate Hodges is in the room.
I'm here, Mr. Chairman. All right. Well, Mr. Chairman, it's a different world we're in right now, and I don't know what has happened, but I only have 2 bills before this subcommittee this year. So, and I'm going to make your day as well, Mr. Chairman. I do have a letter to strike one of them, which leaves me one. So
Sounds good to me. Well, I'll do that. And I'll do that in full committee. Thank you.
948.
948 will be asked to be struck at the full committee.
Okay.
So the bill we have in front of us now, Delegate Hodges, is your HB 771.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, and I believe there's an amendment on line 32, I believe, if that's correct.
Yes, sir. Actually, there's a substitute which has been posted onto LAS.
Okay.
We have a substitute for us. Would you like to explain the substitute?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, it's just a simple change. It changes from department to local government, and I can explain that, Mr. Chairman. As amended, the bill requires localities in the Tidewater region of Virginia to publish on its website criteria and elements adopted by the locality concerning how they administer the Chesapeake Bay program. And basically, it's just a little bit of transparency. What we're seeing is contractors, homeowners from one locality to the next. There's, I wouldn't say inconsistency, but localities are given leeway with how they actually implement the Bay program. Some are more regulatory than others.
Just hold up so that's what the substitute does? So we have a substitute in front
It just changes it from the department to the locality.
Can we have a motion to adopt the substitute,
Okay,
please?
I'm sorry.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, so the substitute is before us. I'm sorry, Delegate Hodges.
Oh, you're
Just wanna make
fine.
sure
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So each locality really, they interpret the Bay program and how they administer that differently. And it can vary from locality to locality. For instance, one locality may have a more robust cutting for site vistas, where the other may, I would say they would be, site vistas with less view. One locality may more easily allow things in the RPA. The other locality would be stricter. So we're just looking for a way to have folks know what's going on. What the criteria that are in the bill, Mr. Chairman, on lines 33 through 45, those criteria are already in the regs and required for the locality. The locality reports those to DEQ now. We're just asking the locality to report that on their website so the public knows.
All right, the bill's in the committee. We have questions?
Yeah, quick question for Delegate Hodges. And I totally appreciate what you are doing here in terms of trying to package all this stuff up. And I'm testing you out to see if you'd be willing to entertain maybe a friendly amendment here.
Okay.
And that is, I have no problem with putting these stuff up on the website, and I think most of your localities probably do.
Some do and some
but to
Thank
say,
you.
hey, all these ought to be up here. All these elements, though, already have to be submitted to the department for approval in one way, shape, or another. And the way I read it is you'd have to redundantly go ahead and resubmit these to the department. So I'm just wondering if we could kind of strike out that submit the elements to the department and just get straight to the chase and say each local government in Tidewater, Virginia, shall go ahead and publish this information on their website.
Okay.
And that way
That's cleaner.
DEQ doesn't get swamped with information
Okay.
they've already approved.
I would consider that friendly. Thank you, Delegate Below.
We'll entertain that in a minute. Let's go ahead and we have another question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The question is, we're just making this all uniform, right? So we don't have Chesapeake doing one thing, Portsmouth doing something, Virginia
No.
doing something else.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, localities, basically, these criteria in the Chesapeake Bay program, each locality basically does things and adopts their ordinances. Some have different RMPAs, RMAs. It's done differently in each locality. The problem we have is folks knowing what's done in each locality. So if there's a contractor or someone that wants to do business in that locality, they can go there and look.
So this is more of a informing the public
Yes, ma'am.
in terms of what is required and folks don't have to guess.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Correct, I guess.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions from the committee? Yes, sir, Delegate Well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Delegate Bolova, your amendment, help me understand what, I think I understand what you were saying, but if I read this, Delegate Hodges' bill requires the local governments to report to the department and then the department shall publish information on its website. Now, were you intending to say that the localities publicize it on their website? Is that?
My understanding of the substitute is it places the onus squarely on the local government. And so it's no longer where you're compiling all these things and putting it on DEQ's webpage. It's really saying, hey, locality, you ought to have these things on your websites, in which case DEQ can be kind of kept out of the equation.
And I may, Mr. Chairman, the language that we have and the way I'm looking at it, removing department on line 32 and making that local government, starting in 31, implement its local plan as required by this article and any updates there too, to the department. So which they have to do. They need to report it to the department, and the local government shall publish such information on its website. So they'll have to report to DEQ, which they already have to do, and then in addition, they just have to add it to their website with my language.
Yeah.
Are we, is that clear as mud? I mean, are we?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, there's other sections of the code that already require a Chesapeake Bay Act locality to submit these items to DEQ for approval. And I just don't want any locality to be thinking that they need to resubmit all that stuff, because that would be the opposite of reduced paperwork act.
Right.
They
don't want them. You don't want them doing it
they
more
need to
than
take their
once.
things and put it up on their website.
As required by that. Okay, I got you.
So do we have an amendment in front of us, Lisa?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, on line 30, I will rewrite the language so that it says each local government in Tidewater, Virginia shall publish on its website the elements and criteria adopted by the locality to implement its local plan. I might have to wordsmith a little bit, but it'll basically just say the locality has to submit the criteria, publish the criteria on its website.
And that covers what you want to do? Yes. Do we have a second for the amendment?
That works for me.
Okay. All in favor of adopting the amendment? Aye. All opposed? Okay. Amendment is accepted. All right. The bill's back in the committee. Any more questions for the patron? And I have no one signed up virtually, either for or against. Do we have anyone in the audience who would like to speak for or against? The committee's last word?
It's nice to be in and out of here quickly for once, Mr. Chairman. You didn't want, and Delegate Lopez didn't wear a shirt. No need this year.
All right, so we have a motion.
I have a substitute motion
Yeah, we have a substitute motion.
to gently lay this on the table.
Second.
And my concern is confusion for the localities. So they already have to do this, and I get where Delegate Hodges is going. They're doing different things, different places. But my concern is that we're asking the localities to publish what they're doing, put it up on their website, and there's going to be another extra thing that they have to do. So.
And if I may answer that, I know it's not Q&A time, Mr. Chairman, but in talking to folks, it's very simple, and got some, VACO folks is here as well. But it's a matter of just cutting and pasting, because they're already submitting it to DEQ, but there's no public place for contractors, homeowners, and folks to know what's going on in those localities. I have contractors that want to build living shorelines and projects, and it's different in all of these localities, and they're pulling their hair out. So it's just a matter of almost cutting and pasting on their website, which they IT do would be 3 minutes, because they're already submitting that to.
So we have a motion. And seconded, properly seconded, to lay the bill on the table, House Bill 771. All right, that motion dies. So now we go back to the motion to report, which has been before us and is properly seconded. On a like vote, the bill passes 6-3.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Y'all have a good day.
All right, so we have one last bill. Delegate Weber, I think, is that the last bill on the docket? Last bill on the docket, Delegate Weber. House Bill 189. Yes, you could. Yes, that's fine, right there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I have before you HB 189. What HB 189 does is seeks to preserve the shellfish's industry right to propagate shellfish on grounds that they have leased. And basically what the bill does is it adds one sentence that says including the right to propagate shellfish by whatever legal means necessary, provided that they adhere to all the other regulatory stuff that in regards to that lease, like things have been paid and all that good stuff. As long as they're in good standing, then they have a right to be able to propagate the oysters and clams and all the other good stuff that we love. And that's what the bill does, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Delegate Weber. Any questions concerning the bill? All right, hearing none. We have no one signed to speak. Well, actually, we have two signed up to speak for the bill. And I do want, you also need to, there are some public comments tied to this bill too, that I think are in your notes. But we have two to sign up to speak for it. Is Beck Stanley in the room?
Hello. Hey,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman, Committee, Beck Stanley for the Virginia Agribusiness Council. We do support this bill. We love our aquaculture folks, and hope you will support it. Thank you.
All right, and we also have Tom Powers in the room, please.
There you go. Hello, Chairman. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm a recreational boater, fisherman, and crabber. I serve on the Crab Committee and the Finfish Committee of VMRC. I was involved with aquaculture regulations during a code change that happened in the early 2000s, Rob Whitman's bill, and the follow-on regulation with that. I've been following aquaculture since. First, I do support a well-regulated aquaculture operations and industry. So don't get me, I'm not coming out against that. I do have a problem with this bill, and I support it, but I only support it if I can be assured that I'm not going to have some judge that comes out here and says, whatever legal means, by whatever legal means is the commission, VMRC, issued a permit to allow someone to have floats in their cove that's out of the way of everybody. So because that's legal for them, that is legal for everybody. And so everybody can put floats anywhere they want. And so I'm suggesting, and I've contacted all the committee members as well as the patron of the bill, that the wording be changed instead of saying including the right to propagate shellfish by whatever legal means necessary to this notwithstanding regulations in 4 VAC 20 in sequence shall include the right to propagate shellfish by whatever means necessary, legally necessary. What that does is it ensures that if a judge comes in and tries to rule on this, that it is clear in this code section that VMRC still has authority and the regulations and decisions they make stand independent of this legal, by whatever legal means necessary clause. There are any number of examples when one could come up with where the commission does restrict operations after public hearing or as part of their process that's in regulatory code, that I'm concerned will a judge will come back and say no. And that's why I would suggest that. I believe that VMRC feels that their regulations are all going to apply. I just worry about what some judge is going to say 5 years from now.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Anyone in the room to speak in favor of the bill?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Mike Osterling. I am the Executive Director of the Shellfish Growers of Virginia. which is a trade association of oyster and clam farmers. And I would like to think that you've saved the last for the best, or the best for the last, since we are the last one on the docket. I don't really need to tell you all about the significant economic impacts that the shellfish industry has. You've been hearing it for years. I don't have to tell you about the environmental impacts that we have to the Commonwealth. You've been hearing that for years. What I do want to tell you is that Virginia is the envy of every other shellfish producing state in the Gulf of Mexico and on the East Coast. And quite frankly, we'd like to keep it that way. Okay. This bill serves only to clarify the importance of shellfish aquaculture to the state of Virginia. We are seeking no special exemptions. We are seeking no exemptions from the permitting process. We want this to still be a very transparent process so that the public does have the chance to comment on our activities. We are not asking that you convey any special exemptions. All we're asking is that you put us on equal footing with other considerations that go into the determination of any water-dependent permit. The previous gentleman spoke about putting the regulation in, spoke about putting the language into a regulation. That's what 4 VAC 20 means. It's a VMRC regulation. We would prefer that this is in the code so that everybody knows that Virginia is for shellfish lovers. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Can I ask a brief?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. And
Yes, sir.
I know we had a chance to go ahead and meet. I really appreciated the heads up. I
Yes, sir.
love our aquaculture and shellfish industry here in
Thank you.
Virginia. And I agree with the idea of equal footing. Could you just help me understand really quickly how the language in here achieves that equal footing?
Certainly.
Because it's a little counterintuitive that you're calling out shellfish
Correct.
in looking for equal footing. But kind of tell me how that works, just
Certainly.
so I know that that's indeed what's happening here.
When a permit is before the Virginia Marine Resources Commission, the code specifies certain criteria that are to be considered. SAV, submerged aquatic vegetation, upland property rights, other fisheries, access. And all we are asking is that when those determinations are made, shellfish aquaculture is one of the considerations that the VMRC will take into account when they're determining a permit.
Yes, sir.
So if I understand correctly, all those other things you just went ahead and mentioned are currently in the permit regulatory
Correct.
stuff, but this is not, and this makes
Correct.
sure that they have to put that in there.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Additional questions?
Any other questions? All right, anyone else
Thank
speaking
you.
in favor of, please?
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee. I'm Kim Husky. I'm here on behalf of Virginia Seafood Council. We support the bill for all of the reasons that Delegate Bulova and Mr. Osterling have spoken to.
Next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I also want to thank the patron for supporting our shellfish industry and bringing this bill before you all. We spoke about the economic benefits. There's also an ecological benefit to this. Nutrient trapping, taking those nutrients out of the water, as well as improved water quality, is extremely important for the bay and the economic benefits of the jobs that are provided. We have a growing industry, and this puts us on equal footing with other interests in the bay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone here to speak against the bill? Hearing none, the committee works by motions.
Second.
All right, we have a motion put before us and properly seconded to report House Bill 189. Open the roll. The bill reports 10-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
to work for